The 49ers keep finding new ways to win games. This week it was the defense that stepped up. We'll talk all about it next on the Jack Hammer Show. Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat here at Levi Stadium, where the 49ers shut out the New Orleans Saints today by a score of 13-0. In the process, they took over sole possession, the lead in the NFC West. It was a fantastic game for the 49ers, another elite performance from their defense. Sunday marked the first shutout and also the first four-game win streak for the 49ers since 2019. You might remember in 2019, the 49ers had a pretty good season that year, making it all the way to the Super Bowl. Today's victory, the shutout, also marked the first time in 21 years that the Saints were kept off the scoreboard. Impressive performance for the 49ers. And like I said earlier already, San Francisco's win, combined with Seattle losing to Las Vegas earlier today, gave the 49ers sole possession of the lead in the NFC West. When you look at it, the 49ers have a one-game lead over the Seahawks at this point, but it's actually more than that because they own the head-to-head tiebreaker over Seattle, as well as with their 4-0 record in the division, also own that tiebreaker as well. So it's in effect, it's really a two-game lead for the 49ers over the Seahawks in a lot of ways. When getting into this one, I want to go through the 5 questions that I asked on Friday. We talked about this earlier today as well before the game during the pregame show. That'll help us really get through this performance today and how the 49ers were able to get this big victory. I will make sure that I hit your questions as well. We have Lucas Pesci in the house. He is a member of the Toolbox. He says, "Hi, Jack. Hope you're doing well, Lucas. Hope you enjoyed this game." Same with Ken's Fashion Journey. He says, "Hi, Jack. 420 Savage, Bang Bang Niner Gang." Mike Thompson, "What's up, Jack?" And Armchair QB1. I love these words, today's victory. And, like Mike says, "What's up, Jack?" And today's victory there from Armchair QB. It was a very good game for the 49ers. I know the score made it look like it was maybe a little bit of a slog in some ways, but it was a good performance overall. Before the game, I talked a lot about how the Saints weren't quite as bad as their record. They have an offense that can move the ball up and down the field. They have a defense that can stop you. Their biggest issue has been turnovers. And that was, again, the key today. It was all about turnovers. Also, the defense put up just a heck of a performance. Black 59 Razor, I'm sorry. This was the only shirt that I could find today. I'll make sure that I don't wear the turtleneck again. It was supposed to be, I thought it was going to be colder than it is. So that's why I wore it. But if you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. But, in today's performance, it was all about the turnovers, really. The 49ers had a pretty darn good defense as well, but it was a heck of a shutout for the 49ers. You go through this game. Let's start off on the defensive side of the ball because, hey, they deserve it. The question that I asked was, there was 2 questions on the defense I asked. Can the 49ers slow down Andy Dalton? That was a yes. Dalton, I thought, was impressive on Sunday. He made a lot of good throws, moved the offense up and down the field, especially in the second half. The first half, the Saints really struggled at times to move the ball, but in the second half, every time they had the ball, they moved it down the field. However, the 49ers defense did to Dalton what they were unable to, what they've done to every quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes this season. Other than a 35-yard completion to Rashid Shaheed early in the game, the 49ers defense kept everything in front of them. And by forcing Dalton and the Saints offense to be methodical, San Francisco was able to eventually come up with several big stops in the second half. You look at those 3 possessions, like I mentioned, and the Saints opened up the second half. The 49ers got a field goal, and then the Saints come back and they have a 12-play, 45-yard drive. They drive it all the way down right here to this end zone behind me. It looks like they're going to, be able to get some points on the board. The 49ers step up on third down with a stop. Then on fourth down, it looks like they're going to go for it, but the right tackle jumps off sides. So that forces them to try a 48-yard field goal. Will Lutz misses it wide left. And that it ends the drive with no points. And the reason that the field goal even had to happen, the third down play was a big one, and that Diameter Lenore was right there on top of the receiver, resulting in incompletion on 3rd and 5 on a deep pass on the left side. So really good coverage by Lenore to help that out. The next Saints possession was another 12-play drive. This time it's going the other direction. Remember, the 49ers got stopped right here at the 2-yard line, I believe it was, maybe the 3, when Jimmy Garoppolo, off of play action on 4th and goal, had to try to run it in himself, and Garoppolo doesn't have the wheels to do that, so he got stopped short. Well, the Saints took over possession, and they had a nice 12-yard drive, covered 87 yards, got the ball all the way down deep into the 49ers red zone, and that's when disaster struck for Seattle, or for New Orleans, for the Saints, and it was a great play by the 49ers defense. We saw Dre Greenlaw come up with a big play. It was Andy Dalton. He had nowhere to go, so he checks it down to Alvin Kamara on the right side. Greenlaw comes up, wraps up the running back, struggling to get him down. Hufanga comes up from his safety position. He sees that. He just drives into Greenlaw with into Kamara with his helmet, jars the ball loose, and then it's just a mad scramble. The ball bounces around. At one point, it looks like one of the Saints guys is going to get in the end zone, but Greenlaw ends up falling on it at the 1-yard line for the turnover. That was a huge piece in this game for the 49ers, who were then able to move it out from there. And then finally, the third possession for the Saints. They had one more shot. The 49ers had to punt after getting the ball deep. They got forced to punt. The punt resulted in an unsportsmanlike conduct because one of the 49ers gunners didn't get back on the field in enough time. He ran down the sidelines, basically out of bounds, which is illegal. That gave the Saints great field position at the 49ers 49. They then were able to get all the way down to the 49ers 4-yard line. Once they got there, though, the 49ers defense stiffened up. You had Dalton throw 3 straight incompletions, and then on 4th and goal, Nick Bosa blows around the edge to drop Dalton for the 49ers' only sack of the game, a 7-yard loss, and that was for all intents and purposes the ball game, because the 49ers then get the ball, drive it, run the clock out, and come out of here with a big win to go to 7-4 on the season. Now, let me take a look really quick at some of the comments over in the comment section, because I definitely want to hit those as well. Looks like you guys are having a heck of a conversation over there. And Mike Thompson says, I don't want to be negative. I'll shut him out, but they were in scoring position way too many times. The Dolphins won't squander those opportunities. I don't know. We'll see, Mike. You're probably right. The Dolphins have some more playmakers on their team. Jeff Wilson Jr. got dinged up today. We'll see if he's able to go. Raheem Mostert's already been injured, so we don't know what that attack's going to look like next week when they get here. And the 49ers have done a pretty good job against explosive teams, with the exception of Kansas City, and I just don't think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to scare anybody and make you think that he's Patrick Mahomes. But you do make a good point there in terms of the shutout, the fact that the Saints did move the ball up and down the field. And that's definitely something that I just tried to answer and go through right there with my response into terms of how Andy Dalton played. And you're right. If the Saints make a couple of plays down there in the red zone, you lose the game. Good teams won't make those mistakes. But here's the thing. The 49ers defense is extremely good. So it goes both ways. I think when you talk about good teams not making those mistakes, I think that you have to also consider the 49ers defense and how good they are, because they've made teams make mistakes like this throughout the season. So, and also I think the other thing you have to look at is the Saints have made mistakes themselves. So it's a mixed bag. So it definitely goes back and forth. I like what you're saying, and I definitely agree with you there. That I'm going to jump over. I'm going to do one more on the defense, Tony, and then we'll get to your question on the running back situation, because I definitely think that needs to be discussed as well. The other question that I had around the defense was, couldn't the 49ers stop Taysom Hill? That was yes. Hill only had 20 yards today on 7 touches. His biggest gain of the game came on the first play for New Orleans, when he caught a pass on the left side for a gain of 7, playing against soft coverage, just ran a little hitch route over there for a gain of 7. But other than that, he was pretty much a non-factor. The 49ers allowed New Orleans to convert only 4 of 13 third down attempts in this game. Hill, a big part of that for the Saints offense over the course of the season. The completion there to open up the game. If you're watching the pregame show, you might remember me saying that Hill isn't really a factor in the Saints passing game. So the Saints kind of came out right off the bat and tried to break their tendencies a little bit. And it worked. Didn't work. It worked there for a nice little game of 7, but it didn't work out overall in the first half. They were pretty much miserable on offense. 49ers had the ball for about 20 minutes in the first half. Overall, really controlled the ball, but they just couldn't get enough points on the board. We'll get into their offense, though, in just a second. I do want to get to this question by Tony, though, as we do. Let's get into that a little bit. We're going to get into the running backs first, and then we'll get into Jimmy Garoppolo. Tony Nagatani, member of the Toolbox, says, who is more likely to be RB2 next week, Mason or TDP? That's a really good question because that's unknown. Mason was on the roster today as far as the actives because he's better on special teams than Davis Price. But when we've seen Davis Price be active, it seems like he's a guy that's been when he's active, he's been involved in the game plan. So I think what we're going to see on Sunday from the 49ers is you're going to see obviously Christian McCaffrey be your starter. If I was betting, my bet would be that the number 2 back for the 49ers next week against the Dolphins will be Ty Davis Price, with Mason still being in that third running back position. Do I agree with that, or do I think that that's the direction the 49ers should go? No, I think that Jordan Mason has proven time and time again that he is a very good running back and that he can run the ball well in this 49ers system. Today he had 5 carries, gained 25 yards, so an average of 5 yards a carry for Mason. I think that he should be RB2. I'm not sure exactly what it is about Ty Davis Price. Maybe it's pass protection because he was pretty good at that during the training camp portion. That might be why Ty Davis Price continues to, in some ways, be, I think, on the 49ers side, coaching staff side, as their better running back of the two. I just think he's not playing because of special teams purposes. So we'll see. But Tony, that's a really good question that we need to keep an eye on as we go through this week and into the game on Sunday. But I think we're going to see Ty Davis Price as RB2 and then Mason as RB3 once again. And that comes up because we had an injury to the 49ers. It was a rough game for the 49ers in terms of injuries. Elijah Mitchell, he sprained his MCL. Mitchell, the MCL sprain is actually the opposite knee of the one that he injured week 1. Doesn't according to Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't think it's as bad as the original, so it might not require the surgery. But it sounds to me like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks at least. Spencer Burford, he went down with an ankle injury. The positive on the Burford ankle injury is that it's not a high ankle sprain, so it's something that if he does keep him out, it won't be for very long. So we'll see how that goes. Christian McCaffrey dealt with some knee irritation, and then you had Deebo Samuel come down with thigh contusion. That thigh contusion occurring in the red zone down here in the, and I believe that was the second quarter. It was right before the touchdown to, I believe it was the touchdown. I believe it was before the touchdown to Jennings. If not, it was right around the time when they kicked their field goal in the third quarter. So those were the 4 injuries that the 49ers dealt with today. Carlos coming in with the super chat, $2. Thank you very much, Carlos. I really appreciate that. He says, what do you think of the late hit on Jimmy? I think that Jimmy Garoppolo today had a lot of bodies around him. It was the Saints. One of the things that I talked about coming into this game was the Saints pass rush was going to be trouble for this 49ers offensive line. It was going to be definitely a piece to watch. I thought that the late hit there was a little bit. It's just a football play. It's just too bad that he got down around his knee. The 49ers catch a break there, and that it's not worse than it was. You could definitely see that Garoppolo was hobbled after getting that hit on his knee. So that's a tough one there, but it looks like fortunately he's okay. Like I said, he was a little ginger on that leg for about a series or two afterwards. Seemed to be walking fine after the game, and we'll see how he performs. No word. He did not show up on the 49ers injury list tonight, so that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on tomorrow. Usually on the Monday afternoon conference call, sometimes there's a player or two who will pop up as on the injury list there that didn't make the injury list after the game, because sometimes the guys will go in after the game and talk, with the trainers, and then they show up there. Garoppolo didn't come out of the game, so I think that's why he didn't show up on the injury list. Let's see what else we have. Bomber T, hopefully you got that on the injury report on the seriousness of Mitchell. Again, it was an MCL sprain. Looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks. It's not as bad as what happened to him on week 1. So that's definitely something that we need to keep an eye out for. In terms of the 49ers offense, let's take a look at that side of the ball. The 49ers defense, so like I said, they deserve a lot of praise. That defense does for the shutout that they pitched tonight. They really won the game for the 49ers in terms of the fact that they're able to hold. When the 49ers offense only scores 13 points, you need a strong defensive performance. Now, you guys know me. You can see the gray in my beard. I'm an old guy. So, nobody's going to mistake the 2022 New Orleans Saints for the 1990 New York Giants. But, that's how far back I go. I mean, I was at Candlestick Park on Monday night in 1990 when the 9-0 49ers and 8-1 Giants played a 7-3 game at Candlestick. The only touchdown being a long completion down the sidelines. I think it was Garoppolo to Taylor that he took for the touchdown. But that was a game kind of like reminded me a little bit of tonight. It was just a grinded out defensive performance. Your offense is struggling a little bit. The defense is playing lights out. But you look at this game and, on the offensive side, Jimmy Garoppolo, my question that I had for the 49ers offense was, can Jimmy Garoppolo stay hot? And I think he did. I think he had a very good, I thought he had a good performance today. I wouldn't say it was very good, but I thought it was good. You look at what Garoppolo had been doing coming into tonight. Over the previous 4 games, he had completed 70% of his passes, a little over that. On Sunday, he was once again over that total. It's just slightly over. It's like 70.1, 70.2. Garoppolo on Sunday, 26 of 37 for 221 yards, 1 touchdown against New Orleans. When you look at that, New Orleans came into this game allowing an average net yard per pass attempt of 5.8 yards. That was 8th best in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo tonight and the 49ers offense, they averaged 5.8 net yards per pass attempt. So they hit that number. So they went up against one of the top 4 pass, when you look at it, the top quarter of the NFL, 8th best pass defense in the NFL, and they were able to come out of this with 221 yards. They had a touchdown through the air, their only touchdown coming that way. There were some misses by Garoppolo as well. There were a couple of deep shots that he missed. One of them was to Christian McCaffrey down the left sideline on a go route that it should have been a completion. And there was a couple other times where the ball didn't even get thrown to them when they were open. So I thought Garoppolo played well. There's some things that he needs to clean up. These are the kind of things that you hope that he continues to build on as the season goes along. For me, I look at this one as the way that they came out it was late in the first half. 3, they're only up by 3 at that point, and Garoppolo really stepped up. They came out, they had a 9-play, 57-yard drive, then ended a touchdown. On that drive, Garoppolo completed 6 of 8 passes. He missed his first 2. So after missing the first 2 passes to start the series, Garoppolo then went 6 of 6 for 50 yards, and he finished it off when he hit Juwan Jennings from 5 yards out in the end zone right here. Got a little bit of a break there. The ball was just a little bit over the top, too far for the underneath defender. I believe it was Tyrann Mathieu to be able to pick it off. The ball bounced off his hand and into the hands of Juwan Jennings, who was right there. That's who he was throwing the ball to, and Jennings gets it in for the touchdown. There was another one earlier in the game. In the first quarter, it was on the right side going the opposite direction. And it looked like, I think on the TV, it probably looked like he was trying to hit, like it was an inaccurate ball that he was throwing to George Kittle. I think in reality, he was trying to hit Brandon Ayuk working the back line of the end zone, but just didn't get enough air underneath it. And that the Saints defender was able to jump up and get his hand on the ball to knock it down. I think overall Garoppolo's performance was pretty good. You look at this again, we talked about the narrow injury. He almost got injured there when he was hit low on that, completion to Brandon Ayuk on the play. That was an interesting one because we've seen Garoppolo a number of times now over the last four weeks make plays moving, and that's not something that it has been typical of Jimmy Garoppolo for the last few years. Really, since he injured his knee following the 2017 season, we haven't seen him be very accurate on the move. He's a guy who pretty much is, has to have his feet set to make plays. over these last few weeks, we've seen him be able to start to make some plays on the move. And the one to Ayuk on this play in particular, it's only an 11-yard gain. It's not like it was a big time throw or anything, but for Jimmy Garoppolo, it kind of was because he was moving to his right. We've seen him miss that throw a number of times, and this time he put it right on the numbers to Ayuk for a gain of 11. Like I said, he got hit a little low by Malcolm Roach, the defensive tackle for the Saints, but he was able to get up. They got the roughing the passer, so it was 11-yard completion plus 15, so you get 26 yards gained on it. He was a little bit hobbled after that. You could see, I think, in the next throw or two, it looked like he was just trying to get the ball out of his hands quick to avoid getting hit. Flyers were able to still pick up a field goal there and go up 13-0. And the biggest thing when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo was turnovers, right? He had the one ball that got picked off, but that was in part due to a hold by the defense. But overall, this marked Garoppolo's fourth straight game without an interception. Coming into this stretch of games, Garoppolo had never gone more than 2 games without throwing an interception. He's now gone 4. It's actually been 5 weeks because of the bye week being in there. It's over 5 weeks since Jimmy Garoppolo threw his last interception. When you look at the way this defense is playing, we've got to keep going back to that defense, how good they are. With how good this defense is playing, if Garoppolo can just continue to play the way that he has over these last 5 games, make some plays, don't turn the ball over, the 49ers are going to be really hard to beat. Now, before we get into the last topic that I had put up, just want to check really quick to see how the conversation's going in the comment section. You guys will probably have a whole bunch of stuff over there. Let's see where we're going. Black 59 Razor, thank you for doing the good work. He says, please like and subscribe. It's fun. Hey, that's really what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to have a good time, talk some 49er football. And sometimes I think I'm probably a little bit over serious when I'm doing this stuff, but that's just the way that I am. Try to give you guys the best information that's possible. I think this one's interesting. I had no idea. This is the first time I've seen this. Black 59 Razor says that the 49ers are opening as 3.5-point favorites against the Dolphins. That one doesn't surprise me a lot, and here's why. 49ers are a pretty good team. Dolphins, we know they're very good. Typically in the NFL, the opening line, the home team usually gets 3 points to start with. So if you base it off of that, where the home team generally gets 3, the 49ers, Vegas right now thinks that the 49ers are about a 0.5 point favorite over the Dolphins. So that makes about sense. So there we go. And then I got another super chat here that I need to hit up from Greg. Thank you for the 499. He says, why do you guys who have never played football like Grant Cohn diss Jimmy Garoppolo, even when Joe Montana would have struggled with a horrible offensive line play like today? I'm not going to touch base on that. I like Grant. He does a good job with what he does. Does a lot of he has some really smart comments. Knows a lot of folks who are very tuned into the team and the NFL game and coaches and those types of things. And I'm not going to address this towards Grant, but I'm going to address this towards the 49er fans. There is a large group of 49er fans. There's a large contingent of 49er fans, particularly on Twitter, who will get on Jimmy Garoppolo, and they just will rag on Jimmy Garoppolo until the cows come home. Every positive is met with some kind of a negative. Every positive has some kind of a qualifier usually. And here's what I'm going to say about Jimmy Garoppolo and Joe Montana and Steve Young. Today was Jimmy Garoppolo's 59th start as the starting quarterback of the 49ers. He has the same record through 59 starts. I believe it was 59. It was either 59 or 57. Whatever it is, whatever the number is, 59, 57, whatever it is. Jimmy Garoppolo has the same record through 57, 59 starts, whatever it is, as Steve Young had as a starting quarterback over that same period of time. They both have the same record, number of wins and losses over that period. It's slightly better than Joe Montana. That's pretty damn good. Now, here's the thing that cracks me up. One of the biggest knocks on Jimmy Garoppolo is the talent around him. Well, the talent around Jimmy Garoppolo is very good. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, running back by committee for the most part. Pretty good offensive line. We know the defense is fantastic. Let me just talk really quick about him and Joe Montana. Joe Montana in his Super Bowl years, Joe Montana, if you follow my channel long enough, you know that I think that Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. But that doesn't mean that I don't realize that when Joe Montana was winning Super Bowls for the 49ers, those defenses were outstanding. In the 49ers' 4 Super Bowl victories, I believe the number in the 80s with Joe Montana, I believe the average points per game allowed was something like 8.9. Definitely, if you look at that team in 1988, the 88 Super Bowl team, that team allowed 1 touchdown from the defense. 1 touchdown, and it was early on in the game against Minnesota in the first round, in the divisional round of the playoffs. The rest of the way, they shut out the Bears in the NFC Championship game. The only touchdown the Bengals scored in the Super Bowl was on a kickoff return. That defense was lights out. And Joe Montana had a guy named Jerry Rice to throw the ball to that year. He had a guy named Roger Craig running the ball for him to throw the ball to underneath those checkdowns that everybody screams and yells about with Jimmy Garoppolo. Where do you think Roger Craig was catching those balls? You go back to the 84 Super Bowl against the Dolphins, Roger Craig with 3 touchdowns in that game, all on checkdowns that he caught and took into the end zone running. That 84 Super Bowl, Craig had the touchdown, so everybody focuses on him. Wendell Tyler, who was the starting running back, he had 4 catches for over 70 yards in that game. Then you get to the Steve Young stuff. And again, Steve Young, excellent quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback, the guy that I really grew to enjoy. I was of right now, one of the things, the biggest knock that you hear right now with Jimmy Garoppolo is he's playing really well, but let's see him. I got to see Jimmy Garoppolo do it in the postseason. I don't care what he's doing in the regular season. I got to see him do it in the postseason. I'm old enough. I remember that's exactly what we used to say about Steve Young back in the day. You know why I know that? Because I used to say that about Steve Young back in the day. And as I've grown older, I realize how silly I was to say that. But, you want to win Super Bowls. You don't want to get the NFC Championship games and lose, and you don't want to get the Super Bowls and lose. So that's the reason for it. But Jimmy Garoppolo is easily the 3rd best quarterback that's been with the 49ers since I've been alive. And I'm old enough to have, I was alive, and I was 5 years old the first year that Joe Montana was when he joined the 49ers. So that shows you how long I've been around with the 49ers. And I would say it's Joe Montana, it's Steve Young, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and then you probably get Jeff Garcia. And I know there's some other greats from the old days, but those are the quarterbacks that I've personally watched. And when you talk about Steve Young, and you want to talk about the guys that you have around Jimmy Garoppolo and how much talent Jimmy Garoppolo has playing around him, last time I checked, Jerry Rice, he's a Hall of Fame receiver, right? Terrell Owens, he's a Hall of Fame receiver, right? Steve Young had both of those guys together on the same team and lost in the NFC Championship game to the I believe they might have been maybe they weren't on the same team when they lost the NFC Championship game to Green Bay, but I know for a fact that they were on the same team when the 49ers lost to the Atlanta Falcons. And the 49ers had to go through the wild card round even to make the playoffs that year. And again, this isn't meant to knock Steve Young, Hall of Fame quarterback, great numbers for his time period in the NFL. But if you're gonna say that the only reason Jimmy Garoppolo is successful is because of the talent around him, I think you need to take a step back. You need to look at the talent that the 49ers had when they were winning Super Bowls. It wasn't just the quarterbacks. They weren't carrying them all the way. I know what Joe Montana did in the Super Bowl. I know that he brought them back in that one against the Bengals. Those were some damn good defenses that were leading the way. So, Greg, thank you for the super chat. I kind of got a little crazy there. And again, that wasn't meant towards Grant necessarily at all. That's meant towards 49er fans with my response. So hope you guys enjoyed that long-winded response, and maybe you guys are yelling at me in the comment section. I don't know. But that's the way that I feel about that situation. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback, much better than what people want to believe. And Greg says, I'm your age. Joe is the GOAT. Agree. Joe, Steve, Jimmy Garoppolo. Thank you for the super chat, Greg. That's perfect. I agree. Joe Montana, to me, and always will be the greatest of all time. He was the guy I wanted to be when I was growing up, and Steve Young came along, and he just had to deal with the fact that he was in Joe's shadow. And then last but not least, really quick, to kind of wrap this up, the last question I had was, can the 49ers keep their run game going? The answer is kind of, not really. The rushing attack was a bit of a mixed bag today. Elijah Mitchell, 35 yards on 7 carries before leaving the game with his injury. But the thing is, he also had a 32-yard touchdown burst that was called back when George Kittle was called for holding down the field. So that kind of screws it up. Deebo Samuel, he was also a victim of a holding penalty. He had a 16-yard gain around the right side on the 49ers opening possession of the second half that was called back due to a Jake Brendel hold. Samuel would go on to finish with no yards on only 2 carries. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, who he struggled to find any rhythm on the ground. He ended up finishing with only 32 yards on 11 carries. It was, I say it was kind of because, and the only reason I say it is because they did get almost 100 yards on 29 carries, are at 96. But San Francisco's average of only 3.3 yards per attempt was way below what New Orleans had been giving up this season. And their average had been 4.6 coming into this game. With Mitchell out, Jordan Mason finally got into the game. He saw his first kind of extended playing time. He had 5 carries for 25 yards. Pretty good day for the undrafted rookie free agent. So overall, pretty good game for the 49ers. I know this offense needs to turn it up. They're definitely going to have to come out and put some more points on the board this week against the Dolphins. 13 points isn't going to cut it against that defense. It's going to be very interesting to see how that game goes down next week. I think it's going to be a fascinating one. But the biggest thing right now is the 49ers are in first place in the NFC West. They're 7-4. Their best record at this point since 2019. I think it's the first time the 49ers have been 7-4 since the Jim Harbaugh years in 2014. I think this is the first time they've been at 7-4 since that point. So pretty good game overall for the 49ers. Armchair QB1, thank you very much. I really appreciate that super chat. Really, thank you very much. And then he says, you look like you're about to go hop on a tram at a ski resort. This is for hot chocolate or a beer at the lodge. Alternatively, you look like you might need some lasers for your sharks. Here's the thing. It is chilly out here. It's nighttime, and then nighttime in the almost into, we're not quite into the winter yet, but it starts getting cold. So I'm a little chilly. That's why I got the turtleneck, but I probably won't have that on. I'll probably be doing something with a long sleeve dress shirt next week or something like that. We'll see what I decide to bring out, but really appreciate that. And I just want to say thanks to everybody. We have almost 100 people in here. This is going to be a fun week on the show. Keep it locked into the channel. I'll be doing right now. My plan is I'm hoping to come up tomorrow with Rob Shue to get back to the Hammerhead show. But they'll definitely be doing I'll be doing another recap of my own to talk about kind of my takeaways of the game. I always like to come back on Monday morning, sit down and review the game and give my takeaways for it. And so you'll get that tomorrow on the channel. You'll get the show with Rob. Tuesday will be the film breakdown. So just keep it locked in here to the Jack Hammer channel for 49ers news, updates, all those types of things. I'll make sure that I get you an injury update on Monday after our conference call with Kyle Shanahan, so you know what's going on as far as that. I really appreciate it. If you guys can do me a favor before you leave, I would like if you guys could please hit that like button for me. That's very important. Like buttons are the lifeblood of the YouTube channel. That's how they get out there and get promoted to other people to take a look at. So hit that like button for me if you could. And then also if you're getting to the channel and you haven't been here before, hit that subscribe button as well. Hit that subscribe button. Let your friends and family, everybody that you know that are 49er fans who are looking for information, let them know about the channel. We try to do fun things here. I try to get you guys, little clips as the week goes on and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys could hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, let your friends and family know, I'd really appreciate it. And Clarence Beeks, I haven't seen your name before, but thank you very much for the positivity there. And also Raphael 5629ers. Appreciate you as well. Appreciate everybody that took the time here tonight to watch this. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.